Hi everyone. Welcome back.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fast Lane Pod.
Welcome. It has been a struggle weekend with the time difference, trying to stay up, setting alarms. But we made it to the end of the weekend.
Yeah, we did. The
The
fist
Las
bump for that one.
Vegas Grand Prix. The Las Vegas Grand Prix. Let's jump.
Mm.
Let's jump right in. How did you find it?
Boring. The real drama wasn't at the end until the end. The real drama for me was first corner. It was pretty much over at the first corner, and that was it. And then
What
the real drama
happened at the
happened
first
after the
corner?
race.
What happened?
Lando had a plan. Clearly, starting from pole, he swung across and blocked off Max. So look, it was very aggressive start, and then he cooked the first corner. Just overcooked the first corner, went wide, left the door wide open for Max, who took advantage, and it was done.
Yeah.
And what a dominant race by Max. But
yeah, I have to give it to him, to be honest.
I have to say that the question is, do you think that Lando would have won that race if he'd stayed ahead at the first corner? That's an immediate. I might as well just jump right into it, right? And ask like that major question: did Lando really have the pace today? I mean, look. First of all, amazing start from Max. That was classic Max Verstappen.
Max, exactly.
Even if you get the first corner right, Max will push you first corner, second corner, third corner. Max is pushing you throughout the first two laps. And he appeared to have lost the start, but by the end of the first corner, look, as we get in the first corner, he taken advantage. He was gone. You can't. Max is a shark. You can't leave Max with. Like, you can't leave an inch with that guy. You can't leave an inch.
Yeah, I think you know.
Baby.
Yeah, I don't think that Norris had the pace that we've seen him over the last few races. So I think that even, he had a weird start, but I think that even if he did have a good start, I think it would have been a tight race for him, all the way to the finish line. I think Max would have been on his tail, if not overtaken him. Because Max had the pace. I think the Red Bull car worked well, especially on the track, and the track was still a bit wet, and so I just think everything worked well in Max's favor this race, to be honest. And yeah, I was actually happy for Max. I'm shocked. I'm actually shocked at myself. But I was happy for Max. I feel like the McLarens, definitely Lando, went into this race thinking that the championship would be decided by the end of this race. And I think by the end of the race he got a rude shock, right? So I'm happy, and we said it. I think we said it the last time we spoke. I like the fact. I think the reason why I'm warming up to Max is because he's giving everyone a run for their money, right? I like the fact that the championship is not decided and we only have 2 races to go. So yeah, I think he's making the last few races worth watching it. And we don't usually have that, right? We don't always have that. So it's nice.
I agree. I you have to give it to Max. He's clearly a G. He's clearly a very determined driver. He's able to find a way. Max was there. You're very correct. He had the pace today. Honestly, I don't think that Lando had the pace to beat Max today. I mean, it was a very dominant win in the end. I don't think anybody had Max's pace today. And when everything's working for Max, there is no faster or better driver on the grid than Mr. Verstappen. And today you proved that. I think even if Lando nailed the start, even if Lando led for the first 5 laps or so, I think at the very worst, Max hounds him and passes him on the track.
Exactly.
I think, at the very worst, Max waits for the pit window and leapfrogs him. Either by undercutting him and setting a couple of fast laps, undercutting him by going in earlier, and coming out, and coming and setting 2 very fast laps on brand new tires to overhaul Lando, or he just overcuts him, allows Lando to go in for fresh tires, and puts in 2-3 fantastic laps to ensure that by the time he goes into the pits, he's got time in his hands. He's overhauled whatever lead Lando had. Honestly, I don't think anybody was beating Max today. Nobody. I think the best that Lando could have hoped for was second place. But having said that, again, there's something about Lando and his starts. It's the elephant in the room. Lando doesn't start well. He's never been a quick starter. The last few races, he seemed to have mastered it, right? He seemed to have mastered the start and been able to nail, qualifying on pole and finish the first lap in pole position. He seemed to have gotten that right. I mean, he's had a couple of dominant race weekends in recent times. But I feel it's more like the Red Bull was just not on it. That in reality, he was beating his own teammate and a less than optimized Red Bull, rather than beating his teammate and a Red Bull Max combination at their prime.
Yeah. To be honest, I think I agree with that. I find it funny. I don't know, but I find like in F1, you're only as good as your last couple of races, right? And this is because, when you said Lando doesn't start well, it reminded me that this is the same Lando that used to make mistakes like all the damn time, right? That was the issue. He was a good driver, but he wasn't consistent. He was always making one mistake or the other that could be avoided. And now we're talking about him being, the championship leader at the moment, and saying, he's been having a couple of good races. So I think you're right. He hasn't been starting. He doesn't usually start well, but at the end of the day, in the last couple of races, which is what counts, I guess, he's kind of, I don't know, he's improved. He hasn't made mistakes.
He's been able to put it together, yeah. He's been stronger. He's definitely been stronger. But how much of that is also him dealing with a teammate that wasn't at his best as well? I mean, Oscar hasn't been at his best either. So how much of it is Lando being at actually, no, in fairness, Lando also didn't make as many mistakes as Oscar did.
He hasn't.
So I have to be fair. I do have to be fair.
Which goes back to this whole, it's strange, right? Because I met Piastri really this season, right? That's when I've kind of like watched him race properly. And the thing I used to say about him was that he was so level-headed and he didn't make mistakes on the track and I attributed it to him being so calm and level-headed, right? And it comes across when he's driving, it comes across during interviews. And so it's funny now that we're saying Lando didn't make as many mistakes as Piastri. It's kind of like the roles have reversed. And I saw some quotes from some reporters that had asked, I think it was this weekend some reporters had asked Max and someone else, and Max and Gasly, and they had asked like what you think about the whole Piastri situation, like what's happened to him. And basically both of them were just like, it's weird, right? Like, how do you just stop driving well mid-season? And I think at first we thought it was just a few races, and you could kind of identify why in those races he had messed up or wasn't doing so well. But it's been consistent now for at least what, 5 or 6 races now, if not more,
Yeah.
right? And so the issue is now he's just not driving as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's very strange because he's consistently coming, 5, 6, he's in that range every race. So it's just a bit strange that this is someone that was coming first. I don't know. I don't know. The jury's still out on what's going on, I guess.
I agree with you 100%. Something happened to Oscar. Beginning of the season, Oscar was Mr. Consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I think this season, Lando didn't completely banish the errors. He still made a few, slight errors.
Yep.
He was also not optimizing the package. Oscar was doing two things very well. He was optimizing the car. He was maximizing his performance rate. And he was not making mistakes. There's the two things where you deliver the absolute best, or where you make mistakes and get away with making mistakes because the other guy also made mistakes. So because fortune just favored you, it seemed like he was actually getting the best results, and it was Lando who seemed to be making mistakes.
Yep.
And then we had that the summer break, and whatever happened to Oscar, whether it was his village people or I don't know, but Oscar came back and unleashed a series, a competitive of errors. Basically, it's just everything that can go wrong has gone wrong with Oscar in the last few races. And it seemed like Lando was able to not only banish the mistakes, but he seemed to also be able to get away with having bad races. So over the last 2 weekends, I mean, he's won back-to-back races even when he wasn't at his best. You know, so it's quite shocking. It's quite shocking.
It's quite shocking. It is. And then without skipping the elephant in the room, talking about village people. we ended the race, and then we saw the news. I saw it on the news first. My husband was actually watching football, and then it came up. The McLaren drivers have been disqualified. What do we think about that? What do we think about that?
Oh, McLaren pulled the Ferrari.
That is literally, that sums it up. It was, they pulled a Ferrari, and it's just such bad luck. It's Ferrari luck, literally. When it matters the most, how can they lose 25 points? More, well, it would have been more than 25 points, I guess. But like, how? Yeah, I don't know. I'm happy about it. I'm not happy for Oscar, to be honest, but he should take one for the team, as he has been doing.
See, my thing is, I don't want Max walking away with that title. But first things first, when I saw the news flash on Reddit, it was from my Reddit F1 feed, and it said the plank that the McLarens were being investigated for a plank ride height violation. I just thought, damn, like this can't be real. And I sort of knew at that point the penalty was inevitable.
Yeah.
I just thought, look, I didn't think there was a way these guys were going to get away with it. So I thought, what the hell? How'd that happen? But I was hoping I had my fingers crossed, and then it confirmed it. So at the point where the news flash said this might happen, it then said Max has gone from potentially being out of the race today to being firmly and strongly back in the title race
I don't
with
know
all
how
the
true.
momentum.
I don't know how true it is, but I saw a statistic online. I've not fact checked it, but apparently, based on this, he has a 90% chance of winning. I don't know how they arrived at that, but I think the point is, right, that it's fair game, right? It's I don't know. He has a good chance. And let me tell you why I like this, right? I like this because, as you said, I feel like Norris has been racing his teammates. It's been
Mhm,
the McLarens racing each other for quite a bit of the season, right?
mhm.
And Max was there in the background when he can, that sort of thing. But now Max is very much in it. And for me, it is now Lando versus Max. And we know how Max can be. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that Max. And fair enough, if Lando wins the championship, all well and good, but at least then we know that he deserved it. And both of them put in, a damn good fight. By
Yeah.
the way, I think we
Mhm.
should do predictions. I think we should do predictions for
We
the
will. We
championship.
will.
Yeah.
We will. We will. It's time to put our what's it called? Draw a line in the sand, right?
Yeah.
But no, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Having said all that, we talked about mistakes being made and co. So, in fairness to Lando today, he
Hmm.
made the one mistake, right? The ride height was on the team,
Hmm.
not on the drivers.
Yeah.
So much as you say, "Oh my God, the pendulum was swung," Max took a net 25 points out of Lando. The reality is, Lando still performed when the chips counted. He still chased down George Russell and beat him. So on the weekend when Max was super dominant, the best
Hmm.
that any driver could do was second place.
No, but when you
And
say he
Lando did that.
chased,
Lando did that now.
sorry, when you say he chased George Russell and beat him, what does that? What do you mean?
Didn't he finish second?
He finished second now, but George started fourth. What
Yeah,
Lando
no,
started?
no. So no, what I mean is that by the end of the second or third corner,
Hmm.
and for most of the race, George was in front of Lando.
Hmm.
So George had a phenomenal start.
Yeah.
And Max goes through. Lando misses the first corner. Max goes through. George is able to. I mean, George is a genius, right? He's able to capitalize. So in fact, we haven't spoken about how great, how amazing a start your guy George had. Okay,
I was gonna say that.
fantastic start. We need to give him his flowers.
We
Fantastic
need
start.
to give him his flowers. Why does no one give George his flowers? I don't
He's a
understand it.
he's anonymous.
I don't know what
He's
it is. And
anonymous.
I just feel like on a day that George drove very well, in my opinion, right?
Fantastic race.
He
Yeah.
started fourth at the end of the day, even if Lando did overtake him. He started fourth. He was always behind Lando, right? He qualified behind Lando. And he ended up coming second, whether or not it was to a disqualification or whatever the case is. He was on the
I mean,
podium and
he finished third. Yeah, he finished third
yeah, he
before the
would he would have been on
disqualification.
the podium anyway.
Anyway,
Exactly.
it was on the podium anyway.
But all people talk about is Kimi Antonelli. And I don't get me wrong, Kimi did a fantastic job today. I think he started 17th. He ended up fourth, right? Well, he then ended up
And he had
third,
a and
but
he had a 5 second penalty.
and he had a 5 second penalty. So it was amazing, to be honest. It was an amazing race, but I just feel like, why are we forgetting George? Why are we forgetting George? I don't know. I don't know what it
He's
is with George.
anonymous, I think. I think he's just anonymous.
Yeah, he's just,
He's
I don't know.
I don't think he's charismatic in that way. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a
you have to
shame.
love or hate them. In Max's
Yeah,
case, you love Max's talent on the track, and you find
but
him
you hate
brash and
him.
aggressive, and yeah, but George doesn't seem to for some
Yeah.
reason.
But George is a
But he
funny
had a
guy. I like him.
fantastic start, very aggressive, very
Yeah,
determined, and I
yeah,
think in the end he was let down by the car. I mean,
yeah.
the McLaren is faster than the Mercedes, right? It
Mm-hmm.
goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
Goes without saying. So in the end, phenomenal race,
Yeah.
phenomenal start, phenomenal performance. To go from, I mean, look, he put up a brave fight, and he finished third, and he was
Mm-hmm.
given the second place. Fantastic drive, but
Yeah.
for me, Kimi drive was something else, and it goes back to what I said in I think our last two episodes about
Mm-hmm.
Kimi having a strong end of season. Like Kimi spent the first half of the season learning the ropes,
Mm-hmm.
but in the last few races, he's pretty much finished on the podium, right?
Yeah.
And he's
Well,
been very, very good.
yeah.
So I mean, rookie of the year conversation. Where do you think rookie Kimi places now?
No,
Allowing for the
I
fact that he's in the Mercedes.
exactly. So I think, I don't think I can't. I know we rated them last in one of our previous episodes, right?
Yeah.
I Kimmy is definitely one of my favorites. Let me just say that.
Mm,
But I still think that there are other rookies that are doing an amazing job who are not
mm,
in a great car. So I can't say because Kimmy has been getting podiums that he is better than someone in a Sauber or in a Red Bull in the Red Bull Junior team, right? Because he has a better
mm.
car. But I do know
Agreed.
he's talented.
And
He's talented.
he's definitely talented, and he's
Yeah,
not done as well as his teammate. Whereas someone like Hajar, uh, in comparison to his
yeah,
also rookie-ish teammate, you have a clearer picture
exactly.
there.
Yeah,
A clear picture there.
yeah. It's still Haja
So
for me,
Kim,
I think.
it's still Hajar. Yeah, you said, yeah.
Still
I
Haja.
think I agree with you. Yeah. No, didn't I pick somebody else last time? Anyway,
I can't remember. But just speaking on that, I don't know if I mentioned it last time, but I don't know how I feel about seeing Haja in a Red Bull car next season.
I beside Max,
Yeah, I
no
don't
go,
I
no
feel
bueno.
like yeah. And I think, I think we'll hear soon, but I think it's a real possibility, right? Who's gonna take the seat, right? It's a real possibility, but I think that's gonna mess things up for Hajar. Um
I think so
I-
too.
and I'm not sure that he can say no to it as well though, right? Like, can he? Like, how does he say no to that?
I don't know what's in his contract. And then, do you really want him saying no? What you're basically saying is that he has to admit that he's not up to the standard, that he cannot keep up with Max.
I
For these
think
guys,
that's
their
the
egos
issue.
are, but that's what it is. Their egos are required for them to be able to perform at the level they perform at. They have to have a level of uh, an inhuman, preternatural level of self belief, right? So if you say that he should perhaps turn it down, what would be
Mhm.
your reason? What would be his reason for turning it down?
I no, I agree with you. I don't know that he can turn it down. I don't even think,
Mm.
I don't think you can. You're in the Red Bull Racing Junior team. They switch drivers even throughout the season, right? I'm not sure he can turn it down. But for me, I don't
But
agree that him saying no or wanting to say no to it means he's admitting that he's not up to Max's pace or whatever the case is. I think for me, Max has a very specific way of driving, right? We've identified
mm,
that. We've also identified that based on that specific way of driving, the Red Bull car has been tuned, has been made to fit his driving style. And
mhm,
unless you get another driver that can adapt to Max's driving style, which is rare because I think his driving style is rare, then I think that the second driver will struggle. It doesn't matter how good you are. And I think that's what we've seen, and that's what everyone has labeled the Max curse or whatever it is, right? But if Hajar struggles, it will affect the way people perceive him but it's not a good indication that he's a bad driver. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. So definitely, look, struggling against Max doesn't mean that you're not a good driver. People have left. I mean, Carlos Sainz did leave Red Bull, and after driving for Alpine and McLaren, wound up in Ferrari, where he had a fairly good time alongside a Charles Leclerc, whom is regarded as one of the best two drivers on the grid, or best three drivers on the grid. So
Really?
clearly, but oh yeah, Charles is regarded one of the best three. Yeah, I think people think. I think for most of the pundits, they rate Charles behind only Max, allowing for the fact that both Lewis and Fernando are veterans, and their best years are behind them.
Yeah.
So of the younger crop of the most people rate Leclerc above everybody else, apart from Max.
Okay.
Which is fair.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't know that, but fair enough.
Look, I'm going to go back to your point. There's only one reason why a driver says, I don't want to drive the Red Bull. I don't want to drive the Ferrari. I don't want to drive the Ferrari alongside Charles Leclerc. I don't want to drive the Red Bull alongside Max. And the only reason would be, I don't think I can beat this guy in the same machine or in this machine. Unless you're saying the team is rubbish. And in which case, if a team is rubbish and the guy is able to extract results from it, you're saying the same thing. I don't think that I can beat this guy in this machine.
I don't know. I didn't know about that. I didn't know that I agree. I just know I didn't want him to go to Red Bull.
And I agree with you. I don't think anyone who likes his career should drive the Red Bull, because it might be one thing that you can't come back from, and it almost tanked. It almost finished Checo Perez's career, right?
I think it's also that's a good example, and I think it's doing the same to Yuki Tsunoda as well. Because I'm not sure where he is gonna be next. I'm
not sure he's gonna be on the grid next year, unless he goes back to the Red Bull racing team,
which I'm not sure will.
Bulls, the
Racing Bulls. Yeah, I'm not sure that will happen. So
they might do a straight swap. They might do a straight swap. Hadjar for Yuki. I doubt. Yeah, I think Yuki's out.
Exactly. I think it's out. Speaking of Red Bull, I heard reports that who is it? I heard reports that I think it's Aston Martin. Yeah. What's his name? What's the team principal called?
Lawrence Stroll.
No, Lawrence Stroll's the owner. Yeah, he's the owner. Something Cowell, right? Adrian Newey. I think it's. Is it Adrian Newey? I think it's him.
Aerodynamics, technical director. Yeah.
Well, I heard that he's getting another position somewhere within Aston Martin, and that they're in conversations with Christian Horner.
So I've heard that. But do they really want Christian Horner? I understand that Christian is looking for.
He's looking for a spot.
I heard he's looking for a deal. You're talking about Enrico Cardile. I think Christian Horner is looking for a deal similar to Zach Brown or Toto Wolff, where they are not just employees of the team, they're part owners. I think he's looking for. I've heard that that's what he's looking for now. He was technical director of the Red Bulls for 20 years, and he was fired. And I reckon he would take the stance that if I owned a chunk of this team, then you couldn't just fire me.
Yeah.
And even if you could fire me, it would not be as ignominious as this was, where you're fired pretty much with immediate effect. So I think he wants that sense of ownership. Excuse me.
which is fair enough. I mean, I
So
get
if
that.
he's going to Aston Martin, I imagine that one of the things he'll be asking for is give me a share of a company, give me equity in the F1 team.
Have Aston Martin, are there 2 drivers confirmed for next year? Do you know?
No, I don't think they're confirmed for next year.
Okay. Yeah, because
Let me
maybe
just check.
not.
Yeah,
Because I think we were hearing rumors about Stroll like not wanting to race anymore and potentially
race
leaving,
anymore.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So maybe they're
yeah.
not confirmed. I mean, to be honest, I think Christian may not be a bad move for Aston Martin. And I
Aston
think,
I agree with you. Yeah,
I think they have, what's his name? The Stroll guy, the owner. He has
Lawrence Stroll.
Lawrence, yeah, he's got big ambitions and hopes for the team, and he's
Mm-hmm.
quite bullish and aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Christian will help, fan the flames, I guess, right? He will, I don't know. I think it might be a good fit, um, depending on the second driver that they get. Um, yeah, because I don't think he will work well with Stroll, right? So let's see.
uh,
Um,
it would be nice to see. It would be nice, to have. You basically will be recreating the magic that helped Red Bull win, right? You have Christian
mhm,
Horner as technical director,
mhm,
and you have Adrian Newey heading the design team.
mhm.
That's part of the formula. Those are two of the anchor people in
Okay.
building the Red Bull team that delivered 8 titles.
Okay.
So it's possible, like 8 drivers' titles, and God knows how many team titles. So it's possible. If you're
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence Stroll, if I was Lawrence Stroll, I would be saying, you know what, it would be nice to get. I mean, I already have Adrian Newey, but I
Yeah,
would have a word with Adrian. I'd say to Adrian, do you think Christian still has it? Because
exactly.
this season they've struggled. So I'd be
Yeah,
asking Adrian, do you think that Christian is a man for the job?
yeah.
And look, if you think about if you think about Ross Brawn, right? So this is my old man hat coming out again.
I was gonna
Think
say, who
about
is
Ross
that? Tell
Brawn.
us.
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
Ross Brawn engineered Michael Schumacher
Okay.
to 5 titles at Ferrari. And I believe he was also with Michael when they won at Benetton.
Okay.
So when Michael joined the Ferrari squad, he went with his dream team, the guys that had engineered him to 2 titles at Benetton.
Mm-hmm.
And when Honda was leaving and they sold their team, you know who
Mm-hmm.
bought it? Ross Brawn, who
Okay.
delivered. So Brawn GP then won Jenson Button's only world title,
World title. Okay.
was
Okay.
powered by Brawn GP,
Okay.
which proved that Ross Brawn could win titles with 3 different teams.
Hmm.
3 teams. So could Christian Horner actually work magic twice? Could he go to Aston Martin and deliver just one driver's title and just one
Hmm.
team title? Would be fantastic.
That would be crazy.
Do you think he can do it?
Let's ask our viewers, what do you think? What do you think? Do you think that Horner has a chance with Aston Martin? Do you think he'd be a good fit? And if so, do you think he can win a championship with the team? What do you think? Let us know. Let us
Please
know
let
in
us
the
know in the comments. Yeah,
comments.
let us know in the comments. I'm going to stick my neck out and say I would not bet against Ross Brawn. Sorry, I would not bet against Adrian Newey.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly would not. No.
Horner. Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with you on that one, to be honest. I think if Aston
I wouldn't bet.
Martin
Yeah.
move in the
Sorry, go on.
direction that we think they're going to move in, especially with the new regulations coming next year. I think if they keep moving in that direction, um, I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't be
No,
completely shocked. Yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
wouldn't put
bet
it.
against Horner and Newey. I
Hmm.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
With and then with Alonso in the team, Alonso might be past his best, but I think they can still put together. It all depends on who the second driver is. If they
Which
get
is
a
what I said, right?
fantastic second driver,
Which is exactly
then
what I said.
yes, then Alonso
I
can be the older guard who is, if he's willing to sacrifice himself, then he can be the guy that helps the new guy win title.
and what does he have to lose, right? I'm not sure that I'm not sure that Alonso has much to lose. So why
Nothing,
not?
nothing,
Yeah.
nothing. And
So
again, we have a rules reset coming. So let's look at Adrian Newey and Christian Horner. They've overseen, I believe, 2 or 3 different rules errors in F1,
hmm
and together put together 2 dominant errors for Red Bull.
hmm
With, so I feel like with the rules reset coming next year, and no, with the fact that Adrian and Christian have worked together before successfully, I would not put it past them. But
yeah.
only if Lawrence Stroll is willing to fire his son or let his son retire, and
Yeah.
well, not necessarily retire, but leave the F1 grid and go somewhere
Exactly.
else.
I was gonna say,
He can go to IndyCar. He can go to the US and race in IndyCar. He can
yeah,
race in
he
endurance
definitely
racing.
wouldn't be he wouldn't find another spot on the grid. So it would be
No,
the end of F1 definitely for next
yeah,
season for him. But yeah.
the Ferraris again. Horrible weekend. Horrible weekend.
Can you see my face?
Horrible weekend. Lewis qualified last. Dead last. Dead
You know,
last.
this thing is now I tell you, I wake up in the morning sometimes and I realize that I'm not as upbeat as I would be. And then I remember it's because of Ferrari. Like they are just killing my mood, right? They're dampening my spirit because tell me, I'm not just that. There's just so much controversy and like things in the news, and I guess it comes with being a seven world champion and
Mhm.
also driving for a team like Ferrari, right? Which is I understand now they're like the most valuable team in F1. So I mean, I know it comes. There's just generally a lot of talk and chatter about the team and the drivers, but like, tell me how Lewis is qualifying last. It doesn't make any sense to me.
None. Absolutely none.
And then even child, and okay, let's say for example, not even example. Let's say so Lewis qualified last. I understand
Mhm.
that he I didn't actually watch it, but I later on saw the news and everything, and he had run over, I think they call it a boulder, like he had run
Mhm.
over something, right? Which then lodged into the under his car. And
Mhm.
so he kind of aborted the lap, thinking that he would either be safe or have time for another lap, but none of those two
Mhm.
were true. So let's even say, okay, something happened to Lewis. That is why. But look at Charles. Charles still qualified ninth, right?
Mhm.
So is that's
The Ferraris were not fast. They were not
yeah,
fast.
and that was ninth based on pace. So it what is going on? This is a car that John Elkann claims is perfect. The drivers are the issue. So it's not adding up to me because you are then now telling me, you F1 F1 historian, you are telling me that Charles is rated as the second best driver on the grid, and then John Elkann is telling me that the Ferrari car is perfect. So it's not adding up. Please help me understand.
Look, a combination of things. That Ferrari is definitely a crap box. It's definitely a slug.
Do we need
It's
to at
definitely
John
not. It's just
Elkins?
not.
Like, come on here. It was
Janako, come here, come on, answer. You have a case to answer, John. No, look, there's no gainsaying the fact that the Ferrari car is not the best.
Mhm.
And I think as the other teams have developed their cars towards the end of the season, Ferrari have fallen further behind. I also think that beyond the engineering of the car itself, their strategy calls have been a bit shambolic. Their development curve is terrible.
Mhm.
They're not. I mean, look, they've made so. Didn't they get the disqualification this year already for the
Yeah.
same ride height issues or something that did the McLarens?
Mhm.
But you've
I think
seen
they got it in China.
rubbish strategy calls. I mean, rubbish strategy calls, rubbish decisions, just rubbish. And from what I hear, part of the tension with the team is that Lewis is complaining that the engineers don't follow his directions. They don't take on board his suggestions. They don't listen to
Mm.
the drivers. And I'm hearing that Lewis has actually emboldened Charles to be more vocal about what the team is not doing. And I think there's an agenda here. Look, I think Charles is on Aston Martin's radar. And if Charles is going to leave, and I think John Elkan's message has probably just told Charles that, look, you're not appreciated here. You might as well leave and go somewhere else. And next season, Aston Martin will be a works team. They'll be powered by Honda and it works. I mean, look, you might as well, right? Given the fact that Honda just powered Red Bull to 4 consecutive titles, you might
So
as
like
well.
I know we spoke about this last I know we spoke about the potential move last time,
Mm,
right? But let's focus a little bit more now on Ferrari themselves, right? Because okay, let's even if Leclerc moves, right?
mm,
Although I mean today as well, I saw a comment from Hamilton. Although I didn't hear him say it, but I saw a comment from Hamilton saying something about him not looking forward to next season either, like
mm.
dreading next season
Because
either, right?
I don't think they're listening to him. I don't think they're taking on board his input
Yeah,
in the
and people have
development of
come
the
out to
car.
say that, right? That they're not.
Mm,
And you know, Ferrari, they're, in my words, an institutional stronghold. It's not one guy.
yeah,
It's not one black man from Britain that is now going to come and tell them what to
and
do
reset their brains.
and reset their brains, right? So,
You
but what next for Ferrari? Like, what is going to happen? Let's assume Charles Leclerc leaves. Who can potentially be the second driver?
before
Do
I
they have a
touch that,
chance?
I'm going to say that you said something in a previous episode. You talked about what John Elkan's message meant for next season. You said if John is saying that the drivers are the issue, then there's no impetus, there's no drive, there's no reason for the team, there's no hope for next season.
No,
Was what you said.
absolutely.
And I agree with you that if the team cannot accept that they have a problem, and a meme I read said, no, actually, it wasn't a meme. It was this one of the former staff talking, one of his former senior Ferrari guys saying that we've changed the drivers,
I'm
we
sorry.
changed the engineers, we changed technical directors, everybody. So who's the problem? It's the management.
Yeah,
It's got to be the bosses, the owners of the team.
yeah.
So what do I think will happen next? If Charles leaves, then I think they're taking on board one of this year's rookie drivers. If you asked Hajar to pick between a Red Bull, a Racing Bulls, and a Ferrari, given what we said earlier in this episode, where you said you wouldn't want to be driving alongside Max, if you're given the choice between driving alongside Max in Red Bull or driving alongside Lewis Hamilton in Ferrari, who are you picking?
That's a no-brainer for me. Just because you used Hajar. Of course, he's going to want to be teammates with his childhood idol, Hamilton.
Okay.
And then he is in a more drivable car. Now, I say that with caution, right? Because
I was going to say.
Red Bull, the car, on the face of it, it's a better car than Ferrari. But I think it is only a better car if Max is driving it. If you cannot,
Okay.
if your driving style does not suit the Red Bull car, then you will come out just like Sonoda, just like Checo, and that's at the bottom of the grid, right? I
Yeah.
think that you can do a bit better with the Ferrari, even though it's a crapper car, if that makes sense, right?
Plus,
Mhm,
plus the elephant in the room. You
mhm.
fancy your chances of beating Lewis better than you fancy your chances of going up against Max.
Very good point. But I'm even surprised that we're talking about Hajar here because for me, the obvious contender is Ollie Behrman, right? We've been all over the news as well. He was a Ferrari reserve driver previously. So it makes sense to me that
Most
he
likely.
would,
So it could be Behrman. It could be Behrman. But
yeah,
and if it's Behrman, it's a no-brainer.
yeah, yeah,
It's a no-brainer. And he's already in the Ferrari ecosystem anyway. And it's a no-brainer.
exactly, exactly,
And compared to
exactly.
where he is right now, look, Ferrari is up.
Yes, of course, of course, of course.
The only person for whom Ferrari is not a step up of this year's rookies is Kimi Antonelli. He's the only rookie who says, "No, I don't want a Ferrari." Even though, I mean, it'd be great. He's an Italian guy in Ferrari, it'd be fantastic. Ferrari haven't had an Italian champion in a long time. I mean, I can't remember if you've ever had one. It's been that long ago. For most drivers for most of the rookies, they'll
Kimi,
jump at the Ferrari, for Kimi, there's no point. There's no reason why Kimi should take the Ferrari over the Mercedes.
yeah, I agree.
If anyone
I
is
don't
likely
even.
to nail the rules, to nail the new technical regulations, let me rephrase it. If someone is likely to not get it right, it's Ferrari.
Yeah.
I think
So
Mercedes are more likely to get it right than Ferrari are.
I agree, right? So that leads me to two questions. Why would Hamilton leave knowing he only has 1 year of these old regulations? So 1 year before like a reset, right? With Mercedes. And then number two, what is left for Hamilton? What's next for Hamilton, right? What do you do? We're in the situation we're in. What do we do?
Well, first things is, why would he have signed for Ferrari with 1 year to rules changes? Is that what you asked me?
Yeah.
Uh, because Mercedes offered him a 1 year deal. It was obvious that Mercedes no longer thought he was the future of the team. They no longer saw him as the best option anymore, which is
True.
understandable. I mean, he was being beaten roundly 2 seasons in a row by George.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't get to terms with the new car. I mean, so they offered him a 1 year deal. He also said he wanted an ambassadorship, a brand ambassadorship, which Mercedes said no to. That I will never understand. Why would you
What
not
does
want
that
this?
mean?
So he gets to be a brand ambassador. He gets to represent the brand. He still remains on their billboards. He's in their commercials. He goes to commercial events.
Why
In the
would they
case
say
of,
no to that?
I have no idea. Look, for example, Red Bull have David Coulthard as one of their brand ambassadors. David retired more than a decade ago. All right. But he was a Red Bull driver. He drove for McLaren, he drove for Red Bull, finished his career as a Red Bull. It was the Fernando Alonso of Red Bull, as it were, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he remains an ambassador. So where you have Red Bull exhibitions, whether it's in some new city or a commercial event, meeting sponsors and co. David is paid to represent the Red Bull brand.
Yeah.
And that's what Lewis was saying. Keep me on board as an ambassador. Pay me to represent your brand, to embody your brand. I don't know why they would say no to that after they'd won 6 titles together. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
But here comes Ferrari. So he had a clause in his contract that allowed him to leave a year early. And when the Ferrari went to John and said, John, would you, I'm okay, I'm available. And when you're Ferrari and you have the guy who is a 7-time world champion asking if he can drive your car, you sign him.
Yeah.
Even though you know he's probably past his prime, you're thinking this guy has some marketing now. He's got, some marketing pull, right? Some commercial pull. So you sign him for commercial reasons. You also sign him as a team ambassador or the brand ambassador for the same reason. This guy is still one of only 2 7-time world champions on the grid. He's also statistically the greatest of all time. Look,
he's also now.
Say about
Say whatever you now. He's also the most valuable athlete, right? So
yeah, I don't know how they came up with that. To be honest, I don't know how he still earns more than Ronaldo or Messi or Carlos Alcaraz or or any of the guys in the NFL.
Sorry, I don't think it's valuable.
Kelsey,
I think
it's
the most. No, I think it's the most marketable. I think that's
the most marketable.
I think that's what it is.
Even that. Is he more marketable than? Is he more marketable than Messi or Ronaldo?
Lewis Hamilton is a big deal in terms of.
I know he is, but
in terms of for me, I think it's you have Messi and you have Ronaldo and you have all these other athletes who are good in their sport. But Lewis is not just good in his sport. He has this, what do you call it? This fashion presence that he has brought to F1. He's literally incorporated fashion into F1. So he's known in the fashion industry. He's also like one of the only drivers on the grid that also talk about like current affairs and general awareness and like fights for various causes, right? So I think it's much bigger than just the sport. I think it's what he stands for outside of the sport as well. And if you look at that and then you think of other sportsmen, I struggle to find someone that has similar characteristics.
I don't know. I feel like footballers always have an edge because they play the most popular sport on the planet. That's so readily accessible.
True.
So and then maybe you say that because they're now in the twilight of their careers, that their brands have waned slightly, and then they're both now playing relatively in B-grade leagues. I mean, the Americans will hate me saying this, but Ronaldo is in Saudi Arabia, and Lionel Messi is in the MLS, and those brands are not as strong as when they played for Real Madrid and Barcelona respectively. So maybe that's affecting it. There's also the fact that my man Federer has retired, and so LeBron is also in the twilight of his own career.
I think LeBron was high up there. He was.
But yeah, I see and then basketball is not as widely watched as football. I don't know. I always feel like football players have an edge over every other athlete, apart from someone like Usain Bolt, because most of us can run, and most of us can relate to running. So I don't know. Is Lewis the most marketable athlete in the world?
I think maybe.
Let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and we should also look at the. I know they did have some criteria, which I didn't really look at in much detail. So, I was just happy he was number one, so I didn't interrogate it. I didn't interrogate it much. But yeah,
No.
the Las Vegas GP. So what's next? What's where are we going next? Qatar.
Yeah, so we have Qatar, we have Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, 1 week
We
after
have
the other.
Qatar on the 28th to 30th, and we have Abu Dhabi a week later.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. So we need to do our predictions for. We'll do that in another
Do another
video.
video. Yeah, another video.
Okay. Okay.
Another video. But yeah, one last before we go, one man's misfortune, right? So in the end, the Ferrari guys did finish 6th and 8th. Or was it 5th and 8th? Yeah, after the penalties. So Lewis effectively went from 20th on the grid to 10th. That's not a bad day in the office.
It's not a bad day in the office, and I didn't think it was, but he obviously felt like he could have gotten a little higher, scored more points.
Yeah.
And he was just really upset, right? If you looked at the interviews, he was really, really upset. So I don't know.
He asked at some point. He asked the team. He said, towards the end, he said, "Why are we only 10th? I thought we were looking good at some point. What's going on?" And it goes back to what we said about Ferrari strategy. The driver's done his best.
Yeah.
I mean, could he have finished 1 or 2 places higher up on merit?
Yeah. And
he clearly felt like the team let him down.
Yeah, he clearly felt he could have done better with better strategy, right? And to be honest, I questioned that strategy as well because he started off on hards, rightly so, right? But he then came in early, in my opinion. Mediums were still changing. His hard tires could have gone on longer. And I think it was around the 20-something lap 20-something, he came in, if not earlier, but I think it was lap 20-something. He came in and then he went on to mediums. And I thought that was like, how do you nurse
he could have
your
stayed
mediums?
out longer. He could have stayed out longer on the hards.
And we've seen him stay out much longer.
Yeah, but I don't know if the hards were worn. I stopped at some point. The race was annoying me, and so I admit to tuning out. I was watching it, but I tuned out.
Yeah, I don't know. They need to do better. Adani, what's his name? Does he have a contract that will take him into next season? How does it work?
I don't know.
It's a return. It's not even I guess it's not even. I don't expect you to know, but I'm just. My hope is that he's not with us next season, right?
We'll find out.
Because it's clear they don't have a great relationship, right? How can you not have a great relationship? Like, for me, it goes without saying.
It's essential. There's a lot. This season should just end. If you're Lewis,
we're nearly there.
Let the season just end. If you're Charles, let this season just end.
Can I just say before we end, I know we're a little over, but Charles, you mentioned how he's been more vocal lately. I thought you weren't allowed to swear on the radios anymore. I just heard Charles going, he was upset. In my mind, I'm like, go on, Charles.
See, I don't see. You can say, yeah, they did say that they had to watch their language. And at that time, I thought it was a joke. In the heat of the moment, you're going to swear. You're going to say it exactly how you feel it in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, bad boy, that one. He's going to pay a fine.
Charles is so unhappy right now. It's crazy.
I don't think Charles stays in that team much after this.
Yeah.
Once his contract expires, I don't think he stays in the team.
Yeah. When does his contract expire? Next year?
I think it's next year. I think it's next year.
Charles, I want to see you win, to be honest. So I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all.
Well,
not sure.
Well,
yeah. I'm not mad. I'm not mad.
I'd like to see Charles win title.
Yeah.
Do you
I think
think?
he deserves it.
I think so too. What do you think happens to Lewis? Do you think he's back on the grid next season? And what happens after next
What
season?
next season, as in 2026?
Yeah.
Defs. I don't think he's not going anywhere. I don't think he's
So
going
he's gonna
anywhere
come back.
next. Yeah, he's coming back next season. It's what happens after. The sad truth is, and I feel like I can't even say it because I don't want to. I'm not going to say it.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to say it. I think next year is Lewis's, unless he has a fantastic breakout season. I think next season is Lewis's last season in F1. And I think at that point, he's just going to be saying, let me add to my tally of wins. You know, if a car is good next season, then could he, the question then becomes, even if the car is good, could he beat Charles in the same car? Because if you can't, then what's the point? Then just finish your contract next year and go home and skydive and design blazers or whatever else you want to do. Because there's no point being on the grid if you're not going to be. And Ferrari are too ruthless. They'll just let him go. So I think we're seeing the very last days of Lewis. We have one more season. I just hope and pray that season is great. That the team deliver a fantastic car and they fix all their issues. But so if Lewis won the title next season, would he retire immediately?
Of course, I think he would. I think he would. I think he's not a Fernando. He's not. I don't think he would just keep racing, right? I think he's devoted so much of himself to the sport that he needs a break, right? He can't just like be in it half-heartedly, and I think that's why he's so upset now. So I think he needs a break. And he has a lot of other things going on, right? He has like a non-alcoholic, don't know what you call it. It's like a non-alcoholic alcohol brand. I don't know what that is, but it's like tequila without alcohol. He has that going on.
He's got a lot
the
of
name
stuff
escapes me. Yeah, he's got a lot of things going on. So I think
his net worth is well over $200 million, from what I understand.
Oh, he doesn't have to worry about the money, right? So it will give him a chance to explore other things. Let me ask this. Have we ever seen, I'm guessing we have, right? A driver come back as a team principal or?
Gerhard Berger used to be part owner and technical director of, or team principal or CEO of the AlphaTauri team, which is Red Bull's junior team when they were first formed. I think Toro Rosso, whatever it was. Yeah, and Gerhard Berger was Ayrton Senna's teammate.
Okay.
Maybe Ferrari or something. I don't remember.
Okay.
So Berger, then come on. Alain Prost owned the Prost Racing team.
Okay.
Yes. So Alain Prost is one. What am I talking about? This guy, Bruce McLaren. Bruce McLaren was a driver, owned the McLaren team. It wasn't so uncommon in those days to have owner drivers or to have drivers that own teams. Frank Williams used to drive.
Okay.
Owned his own team. Jack Brabham. So Bernie Ecclestone, Jack
he
Brabham.
Used to drive?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm showing my age now. Niki Lauda, Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz former chairman was. You've seen the movie now.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So I don't think.
Then there was Stewart. Wasn't there Stewart Racing that was owned by Jackie Stewart? Yes, the team that is now Red Bull used to be Jaguar, and before they were Jaguar, they were Jackie Stewart Racing.
Okay.
So I'm done. I'm done. Yeah.
Thank you for that history lesson.
I'm showing my age.
What I was hinting at is, and I
Uh,
put it to you, Lewis, even if 2027 you are not on the grid, I don't think your time in Formula One should be over. I think he is a great teacher. I think there's one thing we hear all the rookies say it, right? Like Lewis is the one person that like they go to for advice. He has that like
yeah.
teacher thing within him. You know, he has a not-for-profit organization. And what's it called again? Something 54, I think. He has a
54.
non-for-profit, yeah, he has that
Something like that.
organization that focuses on helping kids like get into Formula One and like all that sort of thing. So I don't think that I think that even if he's not on the grid, he still has a big place in F1. And
Yeah.
whether that is as a team principal, as a I don't know what ambassador, whatever it is, I think there's a spot for him, and there will be that spot for him as long as he wants it.
I agree. I think so. In MotoGP, you've got the VR46 Academy, which was started by Valentino Rossi and his friend, Ucho Salucci, I think his name is. And what they are is they're a racing team. They have two teams in different levels of MotoGP. They also have drivers whom they support from very. The idea is that the team supports young Italian drivers with the aim of helping them graduate to the highest level of motorcycle racing, MotoGP.
Okay.
So I imagine that Lewis could do something like that, with the Club 44, whatever you want to call it, that identifies young, talented drivers.
Yeah.
And supports them, sponsors them, supports them all the way, encourages them, and manages them all the way to wherever they're going to. Those that make it into F1 would be great. Those that make it into IndyCar, those that make it into touring cars, those that make it into endurance racing.
Yeah.
I think it would be great for Lewis to do that, especially with children from minority backgrounds.
Yeah, which is what he's passionate about.
Yeah, I mean,
Can
I think
you
it'd be
guys
nice for
do
Lewis
me
to
a
help.
favor? Can you guys like send this video to Lewis, please, and tell him he needs to watch it at I don't know what minute we are, but please send this video to him.
Please, Lewis, don't quit.
Don't
Whatever
stop.
it is, don't stop.
Don't
Don't leave the
stop.
grid.
Don't stop. Don't
Even if
stop.
you do
Exactly.
retire, do not leave the grid.
Don't stop.
You have a lot to offer: mentorship, management, training, teaching, and even administration. Yeah. There's all the things that Lewis can offer the sport.
Yeah.
All the benefits. Yeah. What else? What else? Are we done?
I think so. I think
I think so
so.
too.
I think so.
Tell me a final word before we go. What's going on? Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I feel sad generally just because of everything that's going on with Ferrari. Maybe it's like being a Man U fan for the first year. You know, that sort of thing where
Stop
you are not
it.
you are not
Stop
used
it.
to you are not used to losing. So I guess Ferrari fans that have been there for a while, they're like, this is just another day now. It's another day in paradise. But me, I'm not used to
Stop
it.
it.
So, but however, let me not
See,
digress.
stop it.
I hear Man U is doing very well this season. So let me not continue the Ferrari Man U
Stop bashing us.
comparisons.
Yeah. Stop reminding us that we didn't have.
Let me not
We had a bad
continue.
few years. Don't remind us, please.
But
Don't
final
remind us,
words
please.
from me. I think I'm excited about the last two races. You'll hear my predictions soon.
Oh yeah.
But I think that there are interesting times ahead, especially next season. So I'm expectant and I'm excited as well.
Same here. On that note, I want to say Thank you very much for watching us. If you'd like to be a part of this show, send us an email.
Please do.
We are the fastlanepod@gmail.com. We're on your Instagram. We're on your Twitter. We're on YouTube. Please give us a like. Subscribe to this channel, please. Give us a like. Leave us a comment. And send this to someone that you know. Especially if you have Lewis Hamilton's ear. Please send this to him. Tell him we're saying, please, Baba. Even if you retire, don't leave the grid. Thank you very much for watching us. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.
Take care. Bye.